I don't believe teacher whispered.
But her blind date was the Millionaire CEO with
The soft light of the restaurant touched her. Trembling hands as she held the glass of water. She looked around at the elegant people, the golden chandeliers, the quiet music. Everything felt too perfect, too far from her world. "I don't belong here," she whispered, her voice breaking, her eyes fixed on the table. She wanted to leave before anyone noticed her old shoes or the small tear in her sleeve. But the man sitting across from her, the man she thought was just another blind date, watched her silently. His expensive suit, his calm eyes, and the way he noticed every detail about her spoke of a world she could never reach. Yet at that moment his eyes softened. "You do belong here," he said quietly, his voice deep and full of warmth. "You belong wherever kindness exists." She looked up surprised. Tears filled her eyes as she saw something she didn't expect. Not judgment, not pride, but understanding. He smiled gently. "You teach children how to dream, don't you? Maybe tonight let someone teach you how to believe." Her heart broke open in silence. She had spent her life giving hope to others, but no one had ever offered her any. For the first time, she felt seen. The waiter walked by, the candles flickered, and for a brief moment, the poor teacher and the millionaire CEO were just two lonely souls finding comfort in each other's truth. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Kindness, where every story reminds you that love and kindness still exist in this world. The evening breeze flowed softly through the open restaurant window as she stepped outside, wiping her tears quietly. She didn't want him to see her cry. She had already embarrassed herself enough. A poor school teacher sitting in a place where even the napkins looked more expensive than her monthly salary. She leaned against the cold railing, looking out at the city lights far below. "I shouldn't have come," she whispered to herself. "People like him. They don't understand people like me." But then she heard footsteps behind her, slow, calm, and familiar. "I was afraid you'd leave," his voice said gently. She turned around. He was standing there, his hands in his pockets, looking at her not with pity, but with something deeper. "You think I don't understand pain?" he said quietly. "You think money saves people from loneliness?" His voice cracked, and for the first time, she saw a shadow behind his perfect smile. He looked down for a moment. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. Since then, I've built companies, bought houses, met people who smiled only for my name. But every night I still eat alone." Her eyes filled with tears again. She didn't know what to say. He took a small step closer. "You sat across from me tonight, nervous, real, scared, and still you smiled. You reminded me what honesty feels like." The teacher's lips trembled. "But I'm just a simple woman. I have nothing." He looked at her, his voice trembling softly. "You have everything I've been searching for. A heart that still believes in goodness." For a moment, silence filled the space between them. The city lights shimmered like stars, reflecting in her tearful eyes. He gently took her hand, hesitant but full of sincerity. "Don't run away because of where you come from," he said. "Stay because of who you are." She looked at their hands, hers rough and small, his strong yet warm. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel poor. She felt seen. The next morning, sunlight spilled softly through her small apartment window. The teacher sat at her wooden desk, surrounded by old books and children's drawings, the world she belonged to. Her eyes were still swollen from last night's tears. She kept replaying his words in her mind. "Stay because of who you are." But she couldn't believe it. Men like him didn't fall for women like her. She was just a teacher, surviving on a small salary, wearing second-hand clothes, and carrying dreams she'd long stopped believing in. Her phone vibrated. It was a message. "Thank you for last night. I haven't felt peace in years. Can I see you again?" She stared at the screen, her fingers trembling. For a long moment she didn't reply. Instead, she looked at the little photo frame on her table, a picture of her late parents, smiling with pride the day she graduated. Tears slid down her cheeks. "Mom, Dad, what if I'm not enough?" she whispered. That evening she returned to school. Her students were running around, laughing and shouting. She smiled through her sadness, helping one child tie his shoelaces and another with her drawing. One little girl tugged on her hand. "Miss, why are you sad today?" She knelt and smiled faintly. "I'm not sad, sweetheart. I just forgot how to dream for a while." The girl wrapped her small arms around her. That hug broke her heart wide open. After school, as the sun set behind the old building,
She saw a black car parked by the gate.
he was standing there, the same man from last night, dressed simply this time. No guards, no arrogance, just eyes full of longing. She froze.
"Why are you here?"
She asked softly. He smiled faintly. "Because I couldn't stop thinking about you. I told you," she said, her voice shaking. "I don't belong in your world." He stepped closer, holding a small brown envelope. "Then maybe I'll come into yours." He handed her the envelope. Inside was a donation check, enough to rebuild the broken roof of the school and buy new books for every child. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "I didn't do this for gratitude," he said. "I did it because last night I realized you've given more to the world than money ever could." Tears poured down her face. "Why me?" she whispered. He looked into her eyes. "Because when you said you didn't belong, something inside me whispered, maybe I don't belong without you." She covered her mouth, trying not to cry, but the tears wouldn't stop. He stepped forward and gently wiped them away. "Let me walk beside you," he said softly. "Not as a millionaire, not as someone above you, but as a man who finally found the woman who taught him how to feel again." The children were watching from the window, giggling softly. The teacher smiled through her tears as the sunset bathed them both in golden light. Two broken souls healing each other, one moment at a time. Days passed, and something inside her began to change. The teacher, who once avoided mirrors and hid her dreams behind tired smiles, now woke up with a small spark in her eyes. She didn't understand it fully. Maybe it was his words, maybe his kindness, or maybe it was the first time in years someone had truly seen her. Every evening, he would wait for her outside the school gate. Not in luxury cars anymore, just standing there with 2 cups of tea from the corner shop, smiling shyly as the children waved goodbye to their pretty teacher. The world had started whispering. Some teachers said, "He's a millionaire. She's wasting his time." Others said, "He'll get bored and leave." But he never did. He stayed, every single day. One rainy afternoon, the sky was dark and the school roof dripped water into little metal buckets. She was helping her students clean up when the door suddenly opened. And there he was again, soaked in rain but smiling like the sun. "You'll catch a cold," she scolded, rushing to get a towel. He laughed softly. "I've had colder days without you." Her heart skipped a beat. "Why do you keep coming here?" she whispered, unable to meet his eyes. He took a deep breath and looked around at the broken chairs, the faded walls, the children's innocent laughter echoing through the corridor. "Because this is the first place I've ever felt alive again." She froze, tears filling her eyes. He walked closer, his voice trembling with honesty. "I've spent years surrounded by people who wanted my money, my name, my company. But you looked at me and saw a man, not a CEO. You gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. Peace." Her lips trembled. "But I have nothing to give you." He smiled faintly. "You've already given me everything. Your kindness, your time, your truth. I don't need anything else." The children peeked from behind the door, whispering and giggling as he pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. She gasped. "What are you doing?" He knelt slowly, his eyes full of tears. "I don't care where you come from," he said softly. "I don't care about money or what people say. I just know that the moment you walked into my life, the silence in my heart finally broke." Her tears fell freely now. The children were watching in awe, their tiny hands over their mouths. He opened the box, not a diamond ring, but a simple silver band. "It's not about wealth," he said, smiling gently. "It's about worth, and you are worth everything to me." She shook her head, sobbing. "I can't. I'm not perfect." He took her trembling hands. "Neither am I. That's why we fit." The children clapped suddenly, their laughter filling the room like music. She couldn't hold back anymore. She fell into his arms, crying softly against his chest as he whispered, "You belong here. with me. The rain outside softened to a drizzle. Sunlight broke through the clouds. The day of the school's reopening finally arrived. After months of repairs and rebuilding, the small school that once leaked in the rain now shone like a new dream. The walls were painted bright, the classrooms were filled with new books, and the children's laughter echoed through every corner like music. She stood by the gate, wearing her simple white dress, the same one she wore every special day. Her heart was trembling, not with fear this time, but with gratitude. She watched the children run in holding flowers, their faces glowing with happiness. It was the same school she once worried would close forever, now standing stronger than ever, rebuilt by love, not money. And then she saw him. He stepped out of the car, not as the powerful CEO everyone once whispered about, but as a man with softness in his eyes, carrying a bunch of daisies in his hand. For a moment she forgot to breathe. The world slowed down. He walked toward her, his smile trembling, his eyes filled with emotion. "You did this," he said softly. "You gave these children their dreams back." She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "We did this. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." He looked at her for a long, silent moment. "I didn't save you," he whispered. "You saved me." Before she could reply, the school bell rang, and dozens of children ran to them, laughing, shouting, hugging her legs. Miss, look at our new classroom. Sir, thank you for the playground." He knelt down, smiling, surrounded by tiny hands tugging at his sleeves. One little boy looked up at him and said, "Are you Mrs. Husband?" The teacher gasped in shock, blushing hard. He chuckled softly and looked at her with a twinkle in his eyes. "Not yet," he said, his voice full of warmth. "But I hope one day I'll be lucky enough." The children cheered loudly. She covered her face with her hands, laughing through her tears. As the sun began to set, the whole school gathered outside for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. He stood beside her, their hands brushing softly, just enough to remind them both that fate had written this moment long before they met. When the ribbon was cut, applause filled the air. The children threw flower petals and the sky turned golden. He turned to her and said quietly, "You once said you didn't belong here." She looked up, her eyes glistening. "And now?" she whispered. He smiled with tears in his eyes. "Now you are the reason this place feels like home." She couldn't speak. Her heart overflowed. All she could do was hug him tightly as the children danced around them, laughing, shouting, clapping. In that moment, the poor teacher and the lonely CEO became two. Souls that finally found where they belonged. Not in luxury, not in status, but in each other's hearts. If this ending touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Kindness, where every story reminds you that real love doesn't find perfection. It finds purpose.